One extra copy. So on page 197. And we're in Oz Dalit. It's explaining the difference between the Soyan, the Avodah of Messianis, and the Avodah of Bir Netzutz, of elevating the sparks. That's in everything else in the world. And the difference is that when you have to elevate the spark in something, it's in a way that you're dealing with it. You're engaging with it. Like, for example, food. How do you elevate the spark in the food? It's by eating the food, making the bracha before, making the bracha after, making sure that I eat it in a proper way, in a refined way. And when I do it that way, I'm elevating the spark that's in the food. When it comes to Nisayan, the Avodah is not to work with this Nisayan. On the contrary, the Avodah is to ignore it. As much as possible, to ignore it, to dismiss it. And the work that I'm doing is more with myself, getting the strength myself, not to allow myself to be weakened, to be intimidated, to be threatened, to be challenged by it. So the work is with me. What's the reason for this? So he says, maybe this part will do inside again. Good morning. Okay. So let's start. Let's start here on page 197. The line that begins with the word Shebahem. It's 2, 4, 6, 7 lines from the top. You have to bring your own table and your own chair. Now there's room, I'm sure there's room here.
I'll just bring a chair and then I'll speak it.
Okay. Oh, there's no chairs in
זה מה שחשבתי, באמת. כולם רוצים חסידות, זה... And just stay safe, so...
Okay, so again, we're 7 lines from the top. The Shura, the line that begins with the word Shebahem. The second word on the line, the Tam. The Tam, Adobar, the reason why we have this difference between how you elevate the sparks in food and how you elevate the spark in an Asayan. And food, the way to elevate is by engaging it, working with it. And an Asayan is by dismissing it and ignoring it. The reason is because there is a spark that's in this physical thing. It's something very real. The way to elevate it by this askus badavra gashmi. So I have to work with this physical object to extract that spark. By eating it the right way, or wearing the clothes the right way, or living in this house the right way, I'm able to extract that spark. The spark goes up out of the Gashmias, the Nichla Belakus. It becomes included and becomes one with its source, which is Hashem. Hashem can be Nisayan, but by Nisayan, Oif and Habirur, the way to be Mavar. The Nisayan is Loibes Askus, who Loibes Askus, Loibatsmai. You're not working with the actual object. No, in this askus adam im atzmai, the person works with himself. This gaber ala nesoyin. The reason for this is that nesoyin einay davar mitzad atzmai klal. This nesoyin is not true in it. It's not a true entity with true substance in its own right. It's only there as a test. So therefore, how strong is it? As strong as I make it. And if I dismiss it, and if I ignore it, and if I don't give it any strength, it will have no strength. If I am afraid of it, and if I'm weakened by it, which means I'm giving it substance and strength, that is what makes it strong. You can't compare this to other things, other physical things, that they are a true substance and they have a spark in it. And therefore, bir hanitzutz by this askus badavar gashmi shei alpim mitzvah. But the nesayin einay davar la'atzmei klal. The nesayin has no substance in its own right. All it is, its true substance is just to block me, to conceal, to hide the emes from me. That's its strength. And therefore, if I allow it to conceal godliness from me, it becomes stronger. If I don't allow it to conceal godliness from me, it becomes weaker and becomes non-existent. I mean, this is a story which is just an example of what an Nesayim means, that there was a Yid who didn't own it, he rented it in from the parents, very common in those days. There were noblemen, and Yidden would rent these inns from them, and that's how they would run the business, pay the rent. And the nobleman had money, and the innkeeper had money, and this nobleman actually had a good relationship with this Jewish man. But one day, they were sitting by the table, Friday night, and a messenger comes from the nobleman, and it says the nobleman just realized he's having a big banquet tomorrow night, and he needs to prepare, and he always gets the wine from you, so he'd like to buy so many barrels of wine. So he says, tell the nobleman it's Shabbos today, I can't do any business today, and I'm sorry, I can't help him. He leaves the room, and the rest of the family is, are you sure you know what you're doing? I mean, this is the nobleman. In those days, the noblemen were people who had full power. They had their own palace, they had their own jails, they executed people, they did whatever they want. That's the way Poland was set up in those days. And therefore, your life could be in danger if you're starting up with him. When he said at Shabbos, came back a little bit later, much stronger message. And he said the nobleman was very upset. And he said, you shouldn't play games. This is serious. He needs the wine. And you should give it to him. So he sends a message back. Tell the nobleman that it is Shabbos today. That I cannot do business on Shabbos. And there's nothing I can do. I can't help you. Again, the family is getting very worried. He comes back a third time. This time he says, the nobleman was very upset, and he said, are you forgetting that he's the one who's in charge here? He's the nobleman. He's the top authority here. So he said, yeah, but tell him there's another authority higher than his authority, which is Hashem, and I have to listen to him because it's Shabbos. And of course, the whole family is very worried what's going to happen. Sunday morning, he gets summoned to the nobleman. Saying Tillim and crying and knows what's going to happen. He comes to the nobleman, he walks into his room, and he greets him with a big smile on his face. Okay, first surprise. And then the nobleman tells him, I'm really impressed with you. And he says the following, I had a guest, another nobleman from another town that came to visit, and we were talking about different subjects. And we talked about the subject of the Jewish people that work for us. And he was putting the Jews down. And he said, And I said, no, I really respect them. They have a religion, they have their beliefs. And he said, the beliefs is worthless. For a few dollars, they'll throw the whole thing away. And I said, no, not my mushka. That's what I used to call the Jews, my mushka. My mushka, I know him, he's loyal, he's dedicated. So he said, let's put him to the test. So the guy came, and when he came back and said, you don't want to sell the wine, I was very happy. But my guest said, he has to go back and say it's stronger. Okay, so he went back a second time and said it's stronger. They came back and said, you still didn't want to sell it to him. The guest said, you didn't say it's strong enough. Go back another time, and this time make a very strong message, threaten him, and you'll see. Of course, he came back and he said it's not. So he said, I'm really impressed with the way you acted. If anything, I have more respect for you now, even more than before, and we'll even do more business than we did before, and everybody was happy. This was a test. If he would have known to begin with that he really doesn't need the wine, and the only reason why he did this was because of the other nobleman, it wouldn't be a test. So in his mind, this was something real. But what he did was, again, it's not that it was an imagination. The nobleman was real, and the warning was not the warning. The person who came to give the message was real, but the fact that he was really threatened, and if he didn't do this, he had no choice. He must sell the wine. All that was not real. That was just a test. And it's only as real as you make it, which means if he would have been frightened by it and said, okay, I'm going to do the business today. So he's the one who made it into something real. But in Be'emes, it wasn't something real, it had no substance. So in a sense, every test that we go to, every test that we have, whether it's a test coming from outside, somebody out there who's testing me, circumstances are testing me, or something internal, my own thoughts, my own feelings that are challenging me, if I recognize that it's a test, which means it's not a true substance, and if I dismiss it, and I ignore it, and I don't give it any substance, it'll have no substance, that's what will happen, it'll become non-existent. So that's how he finishes off with a zois, and therefore, call his askus, the work that I do has to be behadam atzma. I have to work with myself. This gaber to be strengthened. The litches as a hesed to push away this concealment. And how do I do that? It looks so real, and it looks so threatening, and it looks like so challenging. The answer is to stand up to a test, the person has to awaken and has to bring out the deepest keiches of his neshama, and that's where the neshama has the strongest force. And what is it? Nekudas hayadus, which in Yiddish the term is always used, the pintel yid, which means the essence of the neshama. Sheyeshna b'chol echad miYisrael, and this is what we always learn about. That there's the fifth level of the neshama called Yechida, and that's a part of the neshama that's solid, rock strong. Nothing could bend it, nothing could break it, nothing could even make a dent. Lamed b'tekim neged kol minei makim, to stand strong. And if I stand strong, then I won't fail the test. So basically, there's 2 points here. One point is that the main thing is to ignore and to dismiss, not to give it any substance. But the Maimer recognizes that this is not easy. Something like that has to be, I have to have the koyach for it. And that koyach comes from me drawing out the deepest koyachs that I have in my neshama, which is the essence of the neshama. In fact, when there is a challenge, that's how it comes out. We spoke about this earlier, just like Begashmias. People have potential to do things that normally they could never do, like when there's a fire or there's a danger, and people are running away from the fire, from the danger. There are bullets, there are bombs, and you're running to save your life. People find that they can do things. They can run for hours. They can jump distances. They can bend bars, do things they would never dream that they can do. And the reason is because at that time there's a run of adrenaline, and you can do things that you normally can't do. So it doesn't mean that when there's a danger, all of a sudden from Shemayim you get something new. It's in you. It's potential, but it's a potential that I can't normally draw out. When there's a challenge and my life is threatened, it comes out. So Baruch is the same thing happens. That when a person's life is, when the neshama is threatened spiritually, there's a test that has the koyach to draw out the deepest depth of the neshama. And with that koyach, I can stand up against all these challenges. Yeah.
You're saying that happens naturally when we're presented with the test? And it just...
So the Gashmi is, it happens naturally. Ruchni is, it depends. There are times where it happens naturally, and there are times where I have to work on it. Where the time that happens naturally. So there's a chapter in Tanya, chapter 2, chapters 18 and 19, where the Alter Rebbe talks about the fact that throughout the ages, Jews were persecuted, and we find that in most cases, when Jews were put to the wall and they were threatened, either they convert to the other religion, most of it was the Christians, or else they'll be killed by the sword or by fire or by water. We find that it was something which was spontaneous without thinking and meditation. They just said, no way in the world. They said, Shema Yisrael. And that was something which was almost like automatic. Like when they're threatened to the core to that degree that the depth of the neshama comes out. And the incredible thing was that a lot of the people that did this were not only people who during their lifetime were very devoted and dedicated and very sort of religious, even people who were not so religious, weren't so much into Shabbos or Kashrus, but when the issue came up about giving up their religion and converting to another religion, they too had such strength that no one would believe that they would do such a thing. Why? Because when they're challenged, that deepest part of the neshama comes out. But these kind of challenges, which are not about being a Jew or not being a Jew, it's other issues in Yiddishkeit. In those cases, probably we have to do the work to bring out that part of my neshama. So number one, I have to recognize I have it. I have to recognize that there's only a test, and I draw out that depth of my neshama to stand strong.
So through the test, it becomes more accessible.
Yes. Yes. I compare it to the emergency lights. In a lot of buildings, you probably have it here too. There are lights that they're never on. You know when they go on? When it gets dark in the room, then the lights go on. They're specifically made for that purpose. That if something goes wrong in the building and all the lights shut down, these emergency lights start shining. So the etzem of the neshama is that emergency light. In normal circumstances, it doesn't shine. But when there's a concealment and a challenge, it starts shining. Yes, Danny.
Personally, I think sometimes when you have the spiritual shit that are troubling you, the first thing that comes to my head is like, oh, this is a test. Great, let's go forward. It's like, maybe there's some truth to this, and egging it on, like you said, like if you give it more truth, it will grow. So then how do you find this strength, or like, what if there's a part of you who doesn't?
You learn this mimer. This is the prescription. This is the this is the medicine. You learn the mimer, and you think about it, and let it register, penetrate, and then when the test comes up, it's nothing. It disappears. Welcome to the club. We're all human. We all have tests. If things in life in actuality would be as simple as it's written here, the world would definitely look different. So of course it involves avodah, but I guess we have to have the emunah that Hashem gives us the strength to stand up to the avodah. And very often, if I only make a small move in that direction, I will see that it's actually true. That the less substance I give it, the less substance it has. And the more substance I give it, the stronger it becomes. And again, when I say, it doesn't mean that what's happening around me is a figment of my imagination. The people are real, the situation is real, but the fact that this is something which I can't stand up to the test, I have no choice, I have to eat not kosher, I have to do something which is not allowed because of A, B, and C, that part is not true. In fact, very often when you stand up to the test, the forces that are opposing you, they melt. Sometimes they melt and sometimes they actually become transformed. The Rebbe doesn't usually tell these kind of stories by Fabrengens publicly about individuals, but there's one of the famous shluchim of the Rebbe is Rabbi Feller in Minnesota. Some of you might have been there and know him. You should have a refuah shlema. But the Rebbe told a story about him. He went to visit a professor. His name was Professor Green. He was a very big scientist. He was involved with the space program with NASA. And he couldn't get an appointment with him for a very long time. He finally got an appointment with him, not religious at all. And he wanted to talk to him, I guess, about Yiddishkeit. And he came to his office. And while he had the appointment, he realized he didn't have mincha yet. And a little bit later, the sun will be going down and he can't have mincha. The professor was busy looking something up. So he really had a little space, a little bit of time to have mincha. But you're coming to visit someone, you can start davening mincha. So I guess that was his test. And what did he do? He actually started davening mincha. Now imagine this guy who's not religious. You finally got an appointment with him, turns around and he wants to talk to you and he can't talk to you. You're talking to somebody else, talking to Hashem. He's sitting in davening and he'll wait for him to finish davening. You would think after that he would say, that is so disrespectful. Get out of my office. This was the key that turned him around. He was so impressed with his sincerity, with his emes, that's what opened him up. And eventually he became from Jewish children, all in Chabad here in Lubavitch. And he gave many lectures on Torah and science and things like that. But what was it? The fact that this person didn't compromise in his Yiddishkeit, but it could have been in his head that it's impossible. If I do this, I'm going to lose everything. That thought is a test. That was an emes. Not that the scientist was an imagination. It wasn't an imagination. The sun going down was real. He had to have mincha, that was real. The scientist was real. What wasn't real? The thought and this idea and this feeling that if I don't do this, I'm going to lose everything. I must. That was not real. And depending on how much strength I give it, that's how strong it is. So, of course, the kind of test that they had in Russia, where if a person went to teach children Torah in an underground cheder, their life was in danger, they could be sent off to Siberia or, God forbid, worse. But Baruch Hashem, we don't have those kind of tests. We have different kind of tests, but the general principle applies to all tests. And also I mentioned this the other day, I think it was yesterday, that the load is according to the camel's back, which means the Yidden in that generation in Russia, when they had this kind of test, Hashem gave them different strength because that was their test. We have this test, so that's a different kind of a test, and Hashem gives us strength for this test. I don't know if I mentioned it this year, but it definitely comes up every time we talk about tests, that we have a custom here, it's called Tahalucha. Tahalucha means when the Rebbe wants that everybody on Yantiv should go to other neighborhoods and come to the other places, sing Nigunim, bring Simcha there, give over a Sikh of the Rebbe. And the word Tahalucha means a march. Everybody marches. The Rebbe would come out at 7:70, stand by the front door, and wave with his hand while they were singing and sort of see everybody off. And a few hours later, when everybody came back, the Rebbe would go out to greet everyone. This is something very precious to the Rebbe. It happens to be that almost every time we had to go, it would rain. Sometimes it was like real heavy rains, sometimes lighter rains, but you knew in advance the weather, it's going to rain. We're going to Talucha. But the joke was that the old Russian Chassidim would look at us and say, and now you're going to watch American Mesiras Nefesh. They're going to walk in the rain. So for some people, how can I go to Talucha? It's wet, raining, my shoes are going to get wet, or my clothes are going to get wet, I might catch a cold, I don't think I can do it. That's the test. For some people, that's a test. For other people, it doesn't even dawn on them that it's a test. Don't even think about it, rain, whatever is going on, doesn't matter. So everybody has their tests, but every person, the test that they have is what he's saying is it's not real. So the avoid is not with the test, the avoid is with me. I have to work on myself not to let it get to me. Hey, let's go into Ois Hey. I was going to do a review each Ois, but I just don't want to stop in the middle. We got a momentum going, so let's keep going. Hey, we'll have to go back later and do the review. So he said before that now at the end of Golus, the main avodah is with Nisoyin, with tests. Zois avodah is called Yisrael, the Golus Acher and Bikras Mashiach. This is the avodah of Yidden, especially in the final Golus, and especially in the final Golus itself, in that time, which is now, where we can hear the footsteps of Mashiach. What is the avodah? The order is the kudus hayados, to arouse and to wake up that pintel yid, that essence, core of my neshama. Shenimtza omek b'lev kol Yisrael. It's found very, very deep in the heart of every yid. V'koyach izus gevuras nekudus levavezu, and with the strength of this powerful part of my neshama, yochel lamet chazak b'chol teikav oiz neged kol meinei ma'akev. He could stand strong against everything and anything that stands in the way, because that part of the neshama is solid, rock, strong. There's nothing in the world that could stand in its way in terms of learning Torah or being the Mekayim mitzvahs. Well, this Gaber Alan is saying he could overcome the test. Will Yilma Torah, learn Torah, be kindness on mitzvahs, observe the mitzvahs, and believe losam lev klal amen of a makfir. And not to take these tests in consideration at all. Of course, it's an avodah, and he says himself it's a very difficult avodah. It's so difficult that in order to overcome it, you have to bring out the depth of your neshama. But we can do it. The reason is because you can't compare the spark in the Gashmizdika thing. Those are the sparks you have to elevate, not through ignoring and dismissing, but by working with it. By rejecting it and ignoring it and dismissing it. I know. Now he's going to explain this part a little bit more clearly. This Gabas binyan Nisayin is when Nisayin seems to be coming on, and it comes on strong. You have to overcome it. You have to defeat it. It's not through the avodah, which is with the mind and the heart, which is Torah Tefillah. Torah is working with the mind, the intellect. Tefillah is working with the heart, because in davening is the time we arouse feelings of love for Hashem, fear of Hashem, and that's usually what gets us to do mitzvahs and not to do averos. So on a regular basis, the way I serve Hashem is mainly by reaching into my mind, learning more, understanding more, and feeling more. So the learning comes from Torah study, and the feeling comes from davening. And the more I understand, and the more I feel, the better I'll be in my observance of positive commandments and not doing the negative commandments. But in the sign, it's not working with the mind and the heart. We're working with something else, with that inner, deeper essence of the soul. What I'm working on is to reveal the essence of the Yechida. Shall never show the kiss. That Yechida, that's the deepest part of the neshama, the fifth level of the neshama. The avodah is to actuality pass the test. I'll soon see what that means. For example, if there's something there that's stopping me from learning, stopping me from davening, you have to actually do the opposite. It's not about understanding. That's not true. That's not the issue. I have to actually do the opposite of what this Nisayon wants me to do. And even if I understand and I feel the right way, that's not going to help get rid of the Nisayon. What helps get rid of the Nisayon is actual practical behavior, the way I actually perform. Not in a way that you're having war with whatever this opposition is. I'm not having a dialogue in my head discussing it's the right thing, it's the wrong thing, I should do it this way, I should do it that way. Is by learning and davening, conducting myself in the path of Torah mitzvahs, and do it b'teikev gadol, with absolute force, or b'chayas pnimi, with an inner chayas, shu teikev atzmei b'li shom taino mayna klal. In other words, generally speaking, the whole Chassidus is based on the avoid of the mind and the heart. Everything in Chassidus is that in order to do mitzvahs properly, is by having feelings like love for Hashem, feelings of fear of Hashem. When you have love for Hashem, you observe mitzvahs in a better way. You have feeling of fear of Hashem, then you observe the leisesa in a better way. It's all about feeling. And how do I get to the feeling? Through thinking and meditating. So I'm thinking, Hashem created the world, He created Yesh Me'ayin, and there are questions and there are answers. How did He create? What way did He create? There's a whole dialogue going on in my head about understanding Hashem and understanding creation and understanding my neshama. And from the understanding, I get to the feeling. When it comes to Nisayon, that's not the time to do that. Nisayon, the time is just to do the thing that I'm meant to do and not to let anything get in my way. Because once you start with the dialogue, then the force of this line can take you over. Thought in the mind and feeling in the heart aren't strong enough to overcome a Nisayon. To overcome a Nisayon, you need the Nekudas Hayados, the Yechida. And therefore, when a person allows themselves to think, maybe there is a reason why I shouldn't do this. No, that's not a good reason. Maybe it is. No, it's not. Once you start going into the dialogue, you're going to get pulled down. So when it comes to Nisayon, the person has to just be strong and do what has to be done. And again, it goes into another detail of one of the things which could be in a Nisayon. Kol Yisrael, all Yidden inherently are Maminim B'nei Maminim. We all have Amunah. The term Maminim B'nei Maminim means children, or we are believers, children of believers. That means that it's like something biological. It's just in our genes that we have Amunah. In the gene of the Nefesh Elokis, every Yid has a neshama. So therefore, it's natural to have Amunah and Amunah Pshuta. I underline that word. Does anyone know what the implications when you say Amunah Pshuta? There's Amunah that comes as a result of a lot of philosophizing and a lot of thinking and a lot of questions and answers and dialogues. And as a result of that, I come to believe this and this.
Like without proof.
What?
Like without proof.
Without proof, right. In fact, the word pshut means pashut, simple. The simple faith like a child that has faith. When a child has faith, they talk about Hashem and other things like that. They didn't get there through thinking, through questions, through answers. So, of course, people who don't understand what Yiddishkeit is all about, what the neshama is all about, they'll say children have simple faith because they're gullible, they don't have no brains, they have no seichel. The real truth is that this is the essence of a Jew. We all have simple faith. In essence, I don't really need proof. It's the other way around. Naturally, inherently, I believe in Hashem with all simplicity. But there are thoughts that come to my mind to confuse me, and that's what I need to work on. How do I get rid of those thoughts? But in essence, in other words, let's say somebody has issues with Amunah, and they have questions, and they get answers, and they have questions on the answers. They go back and forth, and finally they realize, yeah, I should believe this and this. According to Chassidus, it's not that this dialogue and this understanding creates the Amunah. The Amunah is there, and the Amunah is simple, doesn't even need any proof. It's just that when I start searching for proof, that interferes with my emunah. When I give the answers, what I'm doing is I'm taking away the interference. But the emunah itself is emunah pshuta, simple faith. There was a rabbi,
Like,
he lived in,
like kids, אמונה פשוטה.
children have emunah pshuta, which means there's no questions, no answers, no dialogue. They have no, a little child, when he talks about Hashem does this, Hashem does that, is bepashtus. We all have that emunah. But normally people look at emunah pshuta as something which is simple and lower and less than intelligence. But the truth is, it's something which is higher than intelligence. It comes from a place in the neshama that's infinite, and it's higher than intelligence. It doesn't need the seichel. I'm saying, I remember this was a very famous thing everybody was talking about. There was a certain rabbi, he lived in Chicago, later he moved to Eretz Yisrael. He was one of these really brilliant people, genius. In fact, he wrote a sefer. What happened was, how we got to know the Rebbe was he wrote a sefer on the laws of the new moon, which means you have to understand the constellations, the stars, the path of the sun, the moon. This is a subject that even Torah scholars are not so familiar with. He was a genius, he knew the subject, and he wrote a whole book on this, and he gave it to someone whose name was Rabbi Shusterman to print. In those days, there weren't too many printers that printed Torah books, talking about in the early 50s. When he saw the book, he said, a book like this, if you really want someone to appreciate it, you should show it to the Rebbe before you print it. Well, why not? It was a book with, I think, a few hundred pages. The subject was very complicated. And he gave it into the Rebbe. He got it back in, I think, 3 days. And the Rebbe organized the book for him and put certain things in there. And it blew his mind. He couldn't believe that a person go through the book. In fact, he printed, I think, only 50 books because he didn't believe there's more than 50 people in the world that can even understand what he's talking about. And since then, he became very connected to the Rebbe. And one day he came actually to visit the Rebbe personally, spent time with the Rebbe. He's a very big Torah scholar. And he came out, people surrounded him. So what do you say? What do you think? Everybody was curious to hear. And he said, the Rebbe is brilliant and he's this and he's that, is that. But he said, there's only one thing. Nobody's perfect. His amun is like a little child. That's the problem. His amun is so simple like a child. What he didn't realize is that this is the biggest compliment you can give. When a child has simple child, amunah, that's natural. When a brilliant genius has amunah like a simple child, that indicates that it's the simplicity comes from a place that's higher than logic, not less than logic. So every yid has amunah pshuta, and we don't really need proof, and we don't really need answers. And that's something which we have to bring out within ourselves. What is it related to? Why did he bring this in? We believe that Hu Yisbarach Levadai Hu Ve'en Zelasei. Hashem is the only one. There is no other force in the world. Torah mitzvahs are eternal. And therefore, there's nothing in the world that's worth more than Torah mitzvahs. Everything else is nothing compared to Torah mitzvahs in terms of its value. And b'teik of zeh, Yamid Chazak, a person could stand strong. L'kayim mitzvah Hashem b'li laharer achem edosav yisbarach, without thinking and even challenging Hashem, because thoughts could come to a person. Why did Hashem do this? Dafka be'ikvas Mashiach. In this time in history, when we hear the footsteps of Mashiach. Now, the reason why this generation is called Ikvis Mashiach is for 2 reasons. Number one is we hear the footsteps of Mashiach. Another reason is Ikva means the heel. The lowest part of the body is the foot. And the lowest part in the foot is the heel. When I say lowest, I mean that the least sensitivity is in the heel. And therefore, our generation, if you look at all the Jews of all the generations, one sort of collective identity, we're all the way at the bottom, we're the feet. And in the feet itself, we're the heels, because what we understand and what we feel is nothing compared to earlier generations. And therefore, how is it, and why did Hashem do this? We who are so weak and we are so poor spiritually, we're getting such tests that are huge. So in a sense, it's like you're questioning Hashem or you're challenging Hashem. So what he's saying, even though he's mentioning this thought, but he's saying that Amunah Pshuta means there are no questions. I know with absolute certainty, Ki Boi Bocher Hashem, Hashem chose me, that my neshama should come down to the world in this time in history, in this particular place, and it's for my benefit. So when people say, if I was only born in a different place, in a different circumstance, different time, or the different set of parents, the different set of something else. No, it was specifically designed, and Hashem did this with a divine intention that I should be born in this time of history, and in these circumstances, and in this place, and that's because I have this avodah that Hashem gave me. Hashem gave me the koyach to stand up to it. And if he gave me the koyach to stand up to it, I can definitely do it. We had a story once that we had an event, the school made an event, and we invited someone to, she's like a Jewish comedian. She came to do that, a young woman, and this is one of the first times that she did it publicly in such a setting, and she had like a panic attack. She just couldn't do it. Again, this is what we advertised. This is what's supposed to happen, and she just can't. And everybody's waiting. What are we waiting for? Soon. And she's in the back there. And there was someone that walked over and said, "You can do it." And told her 10 times, "You can do it. You can do it. I'm telling you, you can do it." Oh, that's all she said. And after saying it enough times, she did it. She did a great job. So basically, it's our own lack of confidence in ourselves that doesn't let us do things that we could really do. So if we would have the confidence that Hashem gave me the koyach to stand up to the test, and I could do it, then I'll be able to do it. That in itself brings out this koyach that Hashem gives us, the knowledge and the awareness that I can do it. And like I said before, it's by learning the Maimer. This is the prescription for this condition, is to learn the Maimer enough times. The Rebbe Marash once told somebody about a certain subject, to learn the Maimer 60 times. And the Chassid said, after I learned this Maimer, wherever I went, wherever I looked, I saw the Maimer. He meant to say in every circumstance, the words of the Maimer were in front of his eyes. I'm not telling you to learn this 60 times, 59 will be okay. Okay, to be continued.